They stopped her at the gate like she was a mistake. Not with yelling, not with drama, not yet. Just that calm, practiced airport voice, soft enough to sound polite, sharp enough to leave no room for discussion. Step aside, please. It didn't sound cruel, but it meant you don't move forward with everyone else. It meant you're the problem now. The line behind her hesitated for half a second, like people do when they smell a scene, then kept flowing around her like water around a rock. A businessman rolled his carry-on past without looking at her. A mom with twins tugged two little hands forward, eyes down. A college guy in headphones smirked and whispered something to his friend. Everyone did the same thing. They avoided eye contact like eye contact would make them responsible. The girl stepped aside exactly where the gate agent pointed. Quiet, obedient, like she'd been trained by life to not take up space. She was black, maybe 12, maybe 13. Small, slim, with a faded gray hoodie that didn't match the crisp, expensive airport world around her. Sneakers with worn soles. A cheap backpack. Braids pulled back neat. Not messy. Someone cared enough to do them right, even if they didn't have money for new shoes. Her face wasn't angry. It wasn't scared either. It was tired. The kind of tired kids shouldn't have. The gate agent turned back to a screen like she didn't exist anymore. Next, boarding continued. Beep, boarding pass. Beep, another. He didn't look up, and for 10 seconds, it seemed like that was it. Like she'd be left there while her plane left without her. And the story would end the way stories usually end for kids like her. Quietly, unfairly, and with no witnesses willing to say they saw anything. But then she spoke. Her voice was soft, not dramatic, not loud enough to be a performance. "If I don't get on this plane," she said, "people will die." The words didn't match her size. They didn't match her age. They didn't match the moment. They landed like a cold drop of water in a warm room. The gate agent froze. Not because he believed her, he didn't. He froze because nobody says that at an airport gate unless they're trying to cause a panic. He turned slowly. His face carried that look airport workers learn early. "I'm tired. I'm busy. Don't make this my problem." "Excuse me," he said. She didn't flinch. "If I don't board," she repeated, "people will die." The gate agent exhaled through his nose. He glanced past her to the small security podium nearby. Then he leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Stop," he said, firm and flat. "Don't say things like that." The girl's eyes didn't move. She stared past him at the jet bridge, the connected tunnel to the plane, the line of passengers disappearing into it like nothing in the world could stop them. "I'm not saying it to be dramatic," she said. "I'm saying it because it's true." The agent's jaw tightened. He tapped a few keys on his keyboard like he could type the problem away. "Name," he said. "Tell me your full name." The girl hesitated for the first time. Not because she didn't know it, because she knew names mattered here. Names decided how people treated you. "Amani Brooks," she said. The agent typed it. He pulled up her reservation, stared at the screen longer than necessary. Everything looked normal. Seat assigned. ID verified. Ticket valid. No alerts. That annoyed him even more, because normal meant she had no excuse to be strange. "Miss Brooks," he said, "you're on the manifest." "That's not the issue." "Then why did you stop me?" she asked. He didn't like that question, because he didn't have a clean answer. He'd stopped her because something fell off, because she was young and alone, because her clothes looked cheap, because her story didn't match his mental picture of who traveled by themselves. He would never say that out loud, so he said the safe version. "Unaccompanied minor policy," he lied. "We need to confirm." "I'm not an unaccompanied minor," she said calmly. He blinked. "Excuse me." "I'm traveling with authorization," Amani said. "I have documents." Now he did look at her properly. Not just her face, her posture, the way she held herself. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't begging. She wasn't performing fear. She wasn't trying to charm him. She was waiting, Like she knew time was running out, but she wasn't panicking. That kind of calm makes people nervous because calm implies control, and control implies there's something you don't know. "The agent's name tag," said Martin. Martin glanced around at the line. Boarding was halfway done. He could feel the pressure of time. The unspoken airport rule that nothing matters more than keeping the flow moving. "Show me your documents," he said. Amani reached in her backpack slowly and pulled out a folder. Not a crumpled piece of paper. A clean folder. That surprised him. He took it, flipped it open, scanned the first page. His eyes narrowed. The paper looked official. Stamped. Signed. He flipped to the second page. More stamps. More signatures. He didn't know what any of it meant, but the formatting looked real enough that he couldn't instantly dismiss it. Behind Amani, someone sighed loudly. A woman in a beige coat leaned around and said, "Is this going to take long?" Martin didn't answer her. He kept reading. Amani watched his face like she could see his thoughts. "I told you," she said quietly. "I'm supposed to be on that plane." Martin snapped the folder shut, handed it back, and lowered his voice again. "Okay," he said. "Listen, I don't know who taught you to do this, but threatening people isn't going to help you." "I'm not threatening you," she said. "You said people will die," he shot back. "That's not normal." Amani swallowed. Her calm cracked for half a second, revealing something underneath. Urgency. "Because it's not about me," she said. "It's about what's happening on that flight." Martin's eyes hardened. "Enough," he said. "Stop lying, kid." The word kid hit like a slap. Not because she was offended by the truth, she was a kid, but because of the way he said it. The way adults say kid when they mean you don't count. Amani's lips pressed together. She looked around at the passengers boarding. Nobody was listening, but a few were watching. A man with a gold watch was openly staring now. A teenage girl was filming from the side, phone half hidden behind her sleeve. An older woman with kind eyes was frowning, uncomfortable. Amani turned back to Martin. "I need to make one phone call," she said. Martin laughed once, short, sharp, tired. "Of course you do. It's not a trick," she said. "Just let me call. Put on speaker if you want." Martin's patience finally snapped. "Miss Brooks," he said, voice loud enough that nearby passengers could hear. "You are holding up boarding. You're creating a disturbance. Step away from the desk right now." "I'm already away," Amani said quietly. Martin's cheeks flushed. That was the thing. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't cursing. She wasn't giving him the excuse he wanted. The excuse to label her disruptive and remove her without guilt. She was polite. And polite people are harder to punish without looking like a villain. Martin leaned closer, voice low. "Where are your parents?" he demanded. "They're not here. So you're alone?" "Yes." Martin stared at her like he was trying to see past her skin, past her hoodie, to find a missing adult who would make this situation make sense. "Why are you traveling alone?" he asked. Amani hesitated. Then she said the truth, the version that sounded unbelievable even to her own ears sometimes. "Because I have to be," she said. Martin's eyes flicked to the folder in her hands again. "Who's meeting you at the other end?" he asked. Amani answered instantly. "Someone who can verify everything," she said. "But I can't wait. I need to make the call now." Martin glanced at the jet bridge again. The last third of passengers were boarding. He imagined what would happen if this turned into a bigger incident. His supervisor would ask why he didn't handle it faster. Security would ask why he allowed a potential threat to linger. Passengers would complain. Someone would record. And if the girl really was lying, he'd look foolish for entertaining it. He made a decision. "Security," he called. The word echoed louder than it needed to. A uniformed airport security officer began walking over, tall, broad-shouldered, clipped stride. The kind of man who didn't smile at children. Amani's stomach tightened, but she didn't step back. Martin pointed at her like she was an item on a list. "She's refusing to comply," he said. Amani's eyes flashed. I complied, she said. I stepped aside. I'm asking for one phone call. The officer's gaze swept over her. He saw hoodie, sneakers, backpack. He saw problem. What's going on? He asked Martin. Martin spoke fast, eager now that authority had arrived. She's saying nonsense, he said. Claims she has to board or people will die. She's holding up boarding. The officer's eyebrows rose. He looked at Amani. Is that true? He asked her. Amani met his eyes. Yes, she said. The officer's mouth twitched as if he was about to laugh, but he caught himself. That's a serious statement, he said. I know, Amani replied. The officer crossed his arms. Then you'll need to come with me, he said. Amani's breath caught. Her heartbeat spiked. For a split second, the child in her surfaced. Fearful, small, aware that adults could decide her fate with a single gesture. But then she did something that shifted the air again. She reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out her phone. The screen was cracked. The case was chipped. It looked like a cheap device nobody in an airport business lounge would bother carrying. But she didn't hold it like something cheap. She held it like it was a key. I'm making the call, she said. Martin's voice sharpened. No phones at the desk. Then take me somewhere else, Amani said. But the call happens now. The officer stepped forward. Hand it to me, he said. Amani shook her head. I will put on speaker, she said. You can hold it. But I'm dialing. Martin scoffed. This is ridiculous. Amani didn't look at him. She unlocked her phone. Her fingers moved quickly, without hesitation, like she'd done this before. Martin glanced at the screen, just long enough to see the contact name. His face changed, not into fear immediately, into confusion, because the name didn't match the situation. It wasn't Mom. It wasn't Dad. It wasn't Auntie. It was something like, Director Hale, do not delay. Martin's throat went dry. The officer leaned closer, reading it too. What is that? He asked. Amani's voice stayed level. A number you should recognize, she said. Martin swallowed. I don't recognize. The officer cut him off, eyes narrowing at the screen. Yes, the officer said slowly. You do. Martin's heart began to pound. His mind raced, trying to place it. Director Hale. It wasn't a celebrity name. It wasn't a politician. It was worse. It sounded like someone with authority nobody wanted to accidentally offend. Martin's voice lowered. Where did you get that contact? Amani's eyes didn't move. From someone who told me, she said, that if I was stopped, I should call immediately. The officer stared at her. You're telling me, he said, you expected to be stopped. Amani's jaw tightened. Yes, she said. That answer made everything heavier. Because innocent kids don't expect to be stopped unless life has taught them that stopping is normal. Martin forced a laugh that sounded wrong. Okay, he said. Fina, call your director. He said it like he was humoring her. Like he expected the call to prove she was lying so he could feel justified again. Put on speaker, he added. Amani nodded. I will. Her thumb hovered over the green call button. For the first time since she walked into the airport, she looked not scared, focused, like a person walking into a storm with a map. She pressed call. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. And in that short ringing, the gate felt different. The background noise of the airport, announcements, rolling wheels, distant conversations, seemed to drop lower, like the world instinctively knew something important was about to happen. Amani stared at the screen like she was willing the person on the other end to answer. Pick up, she whispered. Martin watched her face and felt something uncomfortable. Not sympathy, recognition, because he'd seen that look before. He'd seen it on people praying in hospitals, on people waiting for a verdict, on people about to hear news that would change their lives. Click. This is Director Hale, a voice said. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't annoyed either. It was controlled, cold, direct, like a person who didn't waste time because time was expensive, Martin's stomach dropped because Martin recognized the voice. He didn't know from where at first, but then it hit him. Hale had been in security briefings, in memos, in emails forwarded down the chain with bolded instructions. Hale wasn't airport staff. Hale was federal, or something close to it. Martin's lips went numb. "Hello," he stammered. "This is Gate. I know exactly where you are." Hale cut in. The officer's eyes widened. He looked at Martin like, "What did you get us into?" The voice continued. "Why is Amani Brooks not on the aircraft?" Martin's chest tightened. The officer's posture changed instantly. Shoulders squared, attention sharpened, professional instincts kicking in. Amani's eyes closed for half a second. He knew her name. He didn't ask. He didn't request identification. He said it like it was obvious. Martin's voice cracked. She was saying strange things, sir. She claimed. "Put her on," Hale said. "Now. Not please. Not when you have a moment. Now." Martin held the phone toward Amani like his hand didn't belong to him anymore. Amani took it. "Yes, sir," she said, calm again. "Hear me clearly," Hale said. "You are not to speak to anyone else at that gate beyond what I instructed. Do you understand?" "Yes," Amani said. "Did they scan your boarding pass?" Hale asked. "No." A pause. And in that pause, Martin could almost feel anger radiating through the phone. "Is the gate door still open?" Hale asked. "Yes," Amani said. "Good," Hale said. "It stays open. The aircraft does not push back until you are seated. Tell the agent to look at his screen. There is an override." Amani glanced at Martin. "Look at your screen," she told him. Martin's hands shook as he turned back to his computer. A new message had appeared. Red highlight, all caps. "Do not close gate. Do not delay subject. Comply immediately." Martin stared at it, frozen. The officer leaned in, saw it, and his face went pale. Amani spoke into the phone again. "They see it," she said. "Good," Hale replied. "Now listen carefully. You will board. You will sit. You will wait. And you will not improvise." "Understood." Amani's voice was quiet. "Yes." Hale's tone softened. Not much, but enough to hear something human underneath. "Amani," he said, "you did the right thing." Amani blinked, swallowing hard. "Thank you," she whispered. Hale's voice hardened again. "And tell them," he added, "if anyone asks questions, they ask me. Not you." "Yes, sir." The call ended. The phone screen went dark. For a full second, nobody moved. Then all at once, the gate monitors flickered. The boarding beep stopped. The jet bridge alarm chirped once. And every screen above the counter changed. "Flight delayed. Please wait for instructions." A wave of confusion hit the crowd like a gust. "What? Why is it delayed? We were boarding. I have a connection." Martin's mouth opened and closed like he didn't know how to speak anymore. The officer looked around, suddenly aware that dozens of eyes were now on them. And Amani just stood there, holding her phone, looking past the glass at the plane, like she could see something nobody else could. Martin forced himself to breathe. He leaned toward her, voice low, urgent now. "Who are you?" he whispered. Amani didn't answer. "What is this?" Martin insisted. "Why does Director Hale know you?" Amani's eyes flicked to him, and for the first time, she let him see a hint of what she'd been holding back. Fear, not for herself. Fear that this was already slipping out of control. "Please," she said quietly, "just let me board." Martin's pride fought to speak, to demand answers, to regain control. But the red message on his screen was louder than his pride. He stepped aside. He lifted the barrier. He forced his voice into something professional. "Go ahead," he said. Amani walked forward, slowly, not rushing, not triumphantly, like a person walking into something heavy. The officer followed her with his eyes. Martin watched her boarding pass in her hand. It looked like any other pass, but now it felt like it weighed 10 pounds. Amani held it out. Martin scanned it. Beep. The green light flashed. The gate made that happy confirmation sound it always made for ordinary passengers. But nothing about this felt ordinary. Amani stepped onto the jet bridge. Halfway down, she stopped and looked back. Not at Martin, not at the officer, at the crowd, all those strangers staring. And she said, quietly, to no one in particular, "I told you." Then she turned and continued toward the plane. Martin stood there, heart racing, watching her disappear. The officer leaned close. "Martin," he muttered, "what did we just do?" Martin swallowed. "I don't know," he whispered. But deep down, he knew something. He wasn't in charge anymore. And whatever was about to happen on that aircraft, it had been waiting for Amani Brooks. The moment Amani stepped onto the plane, the atmosphere changed. It wasn't loud. There was no announcement, no dramatic music cue, just a subtle shift, like when a room goes quiet not because someone asked for silence, but because everyone feels something important has entered. The flight attendant at the door smiled automatically. "Welcome aboard." Then she looked down at Amani's face, and the smile faltered. Not fear, recognition. It lasted less than a second, but it was enough. "Right this way," the attendant said quickly, stepping aside. Amani walked past her down the narrow aisle. Passengers were still standing, lifting bags, blocking the way. A businessman muttered under his breath. Someone apologized. Someone else rolled their eyes. To them, she was still just a kid holding up traffic. But a few heads turned. Not because she was black, not because she was young, because of how calm she was. Kids who travel alone usually look lost, or excited, or scared. Amani looked like someone arriving at work. She stopped at her row, 12A, window seat. She slid into it, buckled her seatbelt, placed her backpack carefully under the seat in front of her. Then she waited. 3 rows back, a man in his 40s watched her over the top of his newspaper. He didn't mean to. He'd just noticed her because of the delay, because of the whispers at the gate, because he'd seen security involved. He was the kind of man who noticed patterns. And this pattern felt wrong. A child boarded late. A federal-looking call delayed the flight. And now the crew was acting alert. He folded his paper slowly. Across the aisle, a woman leaned toward her seatmate. "Why do we stop boarding?" she whispered. "No idea," the seatmate said. "Probably paperwork." Paperwork doesn't freeze a gate like that. The engines hadn't started yet. The door was still open. 10 minutes passed. No announcement. Another 10. Passengers grew restless. A man pressed the call button. A flight attendant appeared instantly, almost too fast. "Is there an issue?" he asked. "We're waiting for clearance," she said. Too rehearsed. "Clearance for what?" She smiled. "Thank you for your patience." That was the moment the man 3 rows back felt it. This wasn't an airline delay. This was something else. In the cockpit, the captain stood with his arms crossed. First Officer Chen sat at the controls, eyes flicking between screens. The cockpit door was open, something that almost never happened once boarding was complete. A man in a dark suit stood between the cockpit and the galley. He didn't wear a uniform. He didn't carry a bag. He didn't smile. "Has she boarded?" he asked. The flight attendant nodded. "Yes. Seat 12A." The man exhaled slowly. "Good." The captain turned to him. "We're burning fuel sitting here," the captain said. "Either tell me what's going on or let me push back." The man met his eyes. "Captain," he said calmly, "this aircraft does not move until I say so." The captain bristled. "I outdrank." "You don't," the man interrupted. "Not today." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a badge just long enough to be seen. The captain's face changed. "Understood," he said. The cockpit door closed. Back in seat 12, Amani stared out the window. The sky was bright. Blue. Ordinary. She wondered if the people down there had any idea what was riding inside this metal tube. She doubted it. Her phone buzzed once. A text. Unknown number. "You did well." Stay seated. Don't speak unless spoken to. Amani typed back, "How long?" The reply came almost instantly. "Long enough." She put the phone face down on her lap. Her heart finally began to pound. Not because she was scared of the plane, but because now there was no turning back. The man 3 rows behind her leaned forward slightly. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay?" Amani turned her head just enough to see him. She studied his face. Kind eyes. Worry lines. Not a threat. "I'm fine," she said. "That delay back there," he continued. "That was about you, wasn't it?" Amani hesitated. Her instructions were clear. Don't speak unless spoken to. But he had spoken to her, and something about him made her answer honestly. "Yes," she said. The man swallowed. "Should we be worried?" Amani looked forward again. "Yes," she said quietly. The man leaned back in his seat, heart suddenly racing. A few rows ahead, a teenager laughed at something on her phone. Someone else complained loudly about a missed connection. Life continued. The flight attendant's voice finally came over the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We'll be departing shortly." The door closed. The engine started. The plane began to taxi. Amani closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about the first time she'd been told the truth. It hadn't been dramatic. No alarms. No explosions. No countdown timer. Just a small room. A white table. A woman with tired eyes. "You're very special," the woman had said. Amani had hated that sentence immediately. People always said it right before things got worse. "Special how?" Amani had asked. The woman hesitated. "Your brain works differently," she said. "Faster. Deeper." "That's stupid," Amani had said. "Everyone thinks fast." The woman had smiled sadly. "Yes," she said, "but not like you." They'd shown her numbers. Patterns. Equations that made grown adults sweat. Amani solved them without realizing they were supposed to be hard. Not because she was trying to show off, because to her, they were obvious. That was when the room had gone quiet. That was when the men behind the glass had leaned forward. That was when her life stopped being normal. The plane lifted off. Pressure pushed her into her seat. People cheered lightly, the way they always did, celebrating nothing in particular. Amani watched the ground fall away. She wondered how many of them would still be smiling if they knew why she was here. The man in the dark suit walked down the aisle and stopped beside her. He didn't sit. He didn't introduce himself. "Do you remember what I told you?" he asked quietly. "Yes," Amani said. "And do you understand what happens if you're wrong?" Amani nodded. "If I'm wrong," she said, "nothing happens. And if you're right?" She hesitated. The man waited. Then she answered. "If I'm right," she said, "this plane saves the world." He studied her face, searching for doubt. He found none. "Then let's hope," he said, "that you're right." He walked away. Amani rested her head back against the seat. Her hands trembled now, just a little, because for the first time since the call, since the gate, since the moment everything changed. She was alone with the truth, and the truth was terrifying. The plane reached cruising altitude. Seatbelt signs clicked off. People relaxed into routine again. Movies started playing. Tray tables dropped. Someone asked for coffee. Normal life. That was the part that terrified Amani the most, because everything about what was coming next was anything but normal. Her phone vibrated again. Another message. Unknown number. You're going to explain it to them. Slowly. No shortcuts. Amani stared at the screen. Who is them? She typed. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, everyone who matters. She swallowed. The man in the dark suit returned, this time carrying a thin tablet. He crouched slightly so his voice wouldn't carry. "We're setting up," he said. "You'll have access in 10 minutes. Amani nodded. "What if I'm wrong?" she asked again. He didn't lie to her. "Then we land," he said, "and we pretend none of this happened. And if I'm right," he hesitated, "then you become the reason tomorrow exists." Amani looked away. She hated when adults said things like that. They always made it sound heroic. It didn't feel heroic. It felt heavy. 3 rows back, the man with the newspaper hadn't stopped watching her. He'd seen the suit. He'd seen the whispers. He'd seen the way the crew moved around her seat like there was an invisible circle drawn around it. Curiosity turned into dread. He leaned across the aisle. "Hey," he whispered to a flight attendant passing by. "What's going on?" The attendant paused just long enough to choose her words carefully. "Please remain seated, sir." That answer told him everything. Up front, in the cockpit, the captain listened as a voice crackled through his headset. "Confirm you're stable at altitude." "Confirmed. Maintain current heading." "For how long?" A pause. "Until instructed otherwise." The captain clenched his jaw. "You know people will ask questions. They already are. And if this goes wrong," another pause, "then history will blame all of us." The line went dead. The captain stared straight ahead. He had flown for 30 years. Storms, mechanical failures, medical emergencies. This was the first time he felt like a passenger. Back in seat 12, Amani's hands rested on her knees. Still, controlled, but inside, her mind raced faster than the plane. She thought about the numbers again, the pattern she'd noticed 3 weeks ago. It hadn't been obvious at first, just a discrepancy, a decimal place that didn't belong, a rounding error that repeated too consistently. Anyone else would have ignored it. She couldn't, because once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. She'd stayed up all night, scribbling equations on scrap paper, rewriting them, flipping them, breaking them apart. The pattern wasn't random. It was intentional. Someone had hidden something inside a system designed to look boring, safe, unimportant. By the time the sun came up, Amani knew 2 things. 1, the system controlled something critical. 2, if it failed, it wouldn't fail loudly. It would fail quietly. And quietly was worse, because quiet failures didn't trigger alarms. They triggered funerals. Her phone buzzed again. 5 minutes. The man in the suit returned and sat beside her for the first time. People noticed now. Whispers spread. Why is that guy sitting with her? Is she famous? Is this some kind of test? Amani didn't look at any of them. "You ready?" the man asked. "No," she said honestly, "but I'm the only one." He nodded. "That's what scares everyone." He tapped the tablet. The screen lit up. A diagram appeared. Complex, layered, the kind of thing most people would scroll past instantly. Amani leaned in. "There," she said immediately. The man blinked. "You didn't even let it load." "I don't need it to," she said. "That node is wrong." The man's fingers tightened around the tablet. "That node is managed by 3 independent systems," he said. "It can't be wrong." "It is," Amani replied, "because it assumes linear correction. And the system isn't linear anymore." Silence stretched. The man spoke slowly. "Explain." Amani took a breath. "Someone introduced a recursive delay," she said. "Tiny, invisible. It feeds back into itself." "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means the system thinks it's stabilizing," she said, "but it's actually drifting." "How fast?" "Slow enough that nobody notices," Amani said, "until it hits the threshold." "And when it does?" Amani looked up at him. "It collapses," she said. "Everywhere." The man's throat moved. "What's everywhere?" She didn't sugarcoat it. "Power grids," she said. "Water treatment. Hospitals. Communication." The man went still. "That's impossible," he whispered. "That's what they said about the problem," Amani replied. "Before I solved it." Her voice wasn't arrogant, just factual. The man leaned back, staring at the tablet like it had betrayed him. "You're saying," he said slowly, "that someone embedded a global failure mechanism into infrastructure systems." "Yes. And you're the only one who saw it." Amani shook her head. "I'm the only one who understood what it meant," she said. "Others saw the data. They didn't listen." The man closed his eyes. "Why this flight?" he asked. Because the last piece is here, Amani said. She pointed at the tablet. A hardware controller, she continued. Legacy system, being transported for decommissioning. The man's eyes widened. That controller regulates. The fallback loop, Amani finished. The one that triggers when everything else fails. The man cursed under his breath. If that gets installed without correction, it becomes permanent, Amani said, and unstoppable. The man looked around the cabin. Families, kids, ordinary people. None of them knew they were sitting above the switch that could end modern life as they knew it. How did you know it would be on this flight? He asked. Amani hesitated. Because I helped design the detection model, she said quietly. They didn't know what they were using. The man stared at her. You designed. I didn't mean to, she said quickly. I thought it was for climate modeling. That's what they told me. The weight of it settled between them. They'd used her brain, her patterns. And when she realized what they built, it was already moving. The man exhaled slowly. And now, he said, you're trying to stop it. Yes. By yourself. Yes. The man shook his head in disbelief. You're a child. Amani met his eyes. And you stopped me at the gate, she said softly. Just like everyone else did at first. The words stung because they were true. All right, he said. Show me. She took the tablet. Her fingers flew. Not randomly. Purposefully. Lines of data shifted. Parameters changed. Numbers updated. The man watched in stunned silence. This wasn't trial and error. This was correction. Precision. The system resisted at first. Warnings flashed. Unauthorized access. Revision conflict. Amani didn't flinch. It's fighting, she said. Can you override it? He asked. Yes, she said. But I need time. How much? She checked the counter. 27 minutes, she said. If I don't finish before the install window opens. The plane jolted slightly as turbulence hit. Amani's hands paused. Her breath caught. Focus, the man said quietly. I am, she replied. I just can't make a mistake. You won't, he said, surprising himself with how certain he sounded. Amani worked. Sweat beaded on her forehead. The cabin felt too loud, too bright. Every laugh felt wrong. Every clink of a cup felt obscene. Because while people watch movies and complain about legroom, a 12-year-old girl was rewriting the math that held the world together. The timer ticked down. 20 minutes. Then 15. The man's radio crackled. They're asking for status, a voice said. Tell them we're not done, he replied. They're nervous. So am I. 10 minutes. Amani's jaw tightened. There, she said suddenly. That's it. The tablet chimed. Revision accepted. The system recalibrated. The recursive loop unraveled. The drift corrected. The red warnings disappeared. Amani slumped back into her seat. Her hands shook violently now. The man stared at the screen. Is it over? He asked. Amani shook her head weakly. No, she said. Now it's safe. The difference mattered. The man swallowed. He pressed his radio. Stand down, he said. Abort install. Initiate review. Silence. Then, confirmed. The man closed his eyes. Relief hit him like a wave. He turned to Amani. You just prevented. She interrupted him. Don't, she said. Please don't say it. He nodded. Fair enough. The captain's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience earlier. We're now continuing as scheduled. People clapped lightly. Amani leaned her head against the window. The sky was still blue. The world still existed. She felt tears sting her eyes. Not because she was happy, because she was exhausted. The man stood. You did it, he said quietly. Amani didn't smile. I just fixed what I broke, she said. He paused. No, he said gently. You fixed what they broke. She closed her eyes. For the first time since the gate, since the call, since everything changed, she allowed herself to breathe. The plane landed like nothing extraordinary had happened. No sirens, No applause. No announcement saying the world had just narrowly avoided disaster. Just wheels touching the runway and the familiar thump that told everyone they were safe on the ground. People checked their phones, unbuckled seatbelts, reached for bags. Life resumed instantly. Amani stayed seated. Her legs felt weak, like if she stood too fast, she'd collapse right there in the aisle. The man in the dark suit remained beside her. "Take your time," he said quietly. She nodded. Passengers filed past them, grumbling about delays, stretching stiff muscles, complaining about coffee prices and misconnections. One man paused, glanced at Amani, then at the man beside her. "You okay, kid?" he asked. Amani looked up. "Yes," she said. He smiled politely and walked on. He would never know how close everything had come. And that was the point. When the cabin finally emptied, the man stood. "They'll meet us outside," he said. "Who?" Amani asked. "People who should have listened earlier," he replied. The jet bridge felt colder than before. Different, as if the air itself had shifted. At the gate, Martin stood frozen. He hadn't moved much since the plane boarded. He'd replayed the moment over and over. The phone call, the screen, the override. The realization that he'd almost been the reason it didn't happen. When Amani stepped off the plane, Martin straightened instantly. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "I'm sorry," he finally said. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. Amani looked at him. She studied his face, not with anger, not with triumph, just with understanding. "I know," she said. That somehow made it worse. Behind Martin, two people waited. A woman in a navy suit. A man with silver hair and tired eyes. They didn't rush forward. They waited until Amani reached them. "Ms. Brooks," the woman said. "I'm Director Hale." Amani nodded. "I know." The woman smiled faintly. "You save a lot of lives today." Amani shook her head. "I just did my job," she said. The man with silver hair crouched slightly to meet her eye level. "You shouldn't have had to," he said softly. Amani didn't answer, because that was the truth nobody wanted to talk about. They walked through the terminal together. People stared. Some whispered. Some filmed. Most had no idea why. At the exit, sunlight spilled across the floor. Amani stopped. For the first time since she'd been stopped at the gate, she hesitated. "What happens now?" she asked. Director Hale answered honestly. "Now," she said, "things change." Amani frowned. "For who?" "For everyone," Hale replied. "Starting with how we listen." Amani thought about Martin, about the officer, about the man on the plane who asked if they should be worried. She thought about how many times she'd been ignored before today, how many times she'd been told to wait, to step aside, to stop lying. "Good," Amani said. They walked outside. Cars waited. Security. Silence. Before getting in, Amani turned back once more, looking at the airport behind her. All that noise, all those people, all that power, and how close it had come to missing the truth because it came from a child in worn sneakers. She slid into the car. As it pulled away, Director Hale glanced at her. "You know," she said, "some people will say this was luck." Amani stared out the window. "Some people always do," she replied. The car merged into traffic. The airport faded behind them. The world kept spinning. People would never know how close they'd come. They'd argue about politics, complain about delays, underestimate the wrong people tomorrow, just like yesterday. But somewhere in a secure building, protocols were already changing. Somewhere, someone was rewriting a rule that had almost cost everything. And somewhere, a gate agent would hesitate just a little longer next time before telling a child to step aside. Because once in a while, the person you stop at the gate is the person holding the future. And once in a while, one phone call is enough to change everything.